Hello again, everybody. This is Evan, the instructor on the upcoming Law Enforcement Grant Writing 101 training that you're going to be attending. In this second preparation video, what I'd like to do is hop onto Google Drive, which is where all of the course materials are going to be housed. I want to point a couple of things about Google Drive out for those of you who have never used it before. And after we do that, we'll go over the course materials and some of the things that we're going to be covering in this class. So why don't we hop on my computer and we'll start taking a look. All right, everybody. So when you click the link that was provided in the welcome email, it's going to take you to this Google Drive folder. For those of you who have never used Google Drive before, here are just a couple of things you need to know. First of all, you don't want to think about this as your own personal storage space. This is a shared drive. And so what that means is that if you make any edits or changes to any of the files that are in this drive, it's going to change the documents on your computer as well as for everybody else in the class and anyone who's taken this course in the past. So you don't want to do that. So we have different folders that correspond to different aspects of the course. And to give you an example of what I mean about not wanting to edit directly in Google Drive, let's say I went into the federal grant example folder and I wanted to take a look at the program narrative. So if I just open this up by double clicking, first of all, it would stay in Google Drive and I'd have the document in front of me. If I wanted to change statement of the problem to problem statement, it's going to change that for me as well as for anybody else who has access to this link. So you don't want to do that. My suggestion is that you download the entire folder, and how you can do that is if you click this little down arrow here and you click download. This entire folder will end up wherever you'd like to save it, which could be on your desktop, your own drive. If you've got a thumb drive you want to put it on, doesn't matter. But once you have physically downloaded it from the Google Drive that we're sharing here, then it's yours and you can make edits and it's not going to impact anybody else. So just an important thing to point out. If you don't want to download the entire folder, which some people don't, right, there's just a couple of things that you'll want to keep in mind. So let's say that, again, we're going to go into this federal grant example and I want to take notes directly in my program narrative. I wouldn't want to double click and open it. What I'd want to do is go ahead and click this little download button here. And this will download it directly, again, to whatever device you'd like, your desktop, thumb drive, whatever you'd like. And then once it's physically off of Drive, again, you can edit it and it's not going to make changes for anybody else. So in actuality, there's only really two things that I would suggest downloading. The first is the Grant Writing Toolkit. So I've got a folder here called the Grant Writing Toolkit. The next video is going to go over this toolkit in depth. But if I were to open this up, first of all, it's going to open up in Google Sheets, and some of the formatting that I've used in Excel is not going to work. So that's one reason why you want to download it. But another is if we, start working in the course and you start, let's say, entering crime data, you're going to enter crime data for your file as well as for everybody's file. So again, you do not want to do that. So if you don't want to download the entire folder, all you'd have to do is click this little download button here, download it and save it to whatever device you would like. You can also click these three little bubbles and click download as well. So you'll definitely want to download the PGW Grant Writing Toolkit, and that is in the Grant Writing Toolkit folder. The second is not a requirement, but I do suggest that you download the workbook itself. So we'll be working in the workbook on a couple of different exercises in class. Sometimes it's easier for people if they have the workbook in front of them printed out rather than having to switch screens, because if you're in person going to be working on a laptop, and maybe if you're taking the Zoom course, you only have one screen, so you don't want to switch back and forth. So this I would recommend actually downloading. And to do that, all you would have to do is go into the course workbook folder and download directly wherever you'd like to save it. Again, you can also download using the three bubbles. Right, so in terms of the course material, as I said, we'll be working through the workbook on 9 different exercises while we're in class. We're also going to be going over a state grant example for license plate readers. So this is a grant that I wrote with a department in New Jersey for license plate readers, and it sounds pretty tedious, but we're going to go through this line by line, and I'm going to point some things out, why there's certain information where it is. So again, sounds tedious, but this is actually the aspect of the course that people comment as being kind of the most useful. So you'll have access to this state grant example. You can skip over rosters for now. We won't go over them in class, but I've got 2 examples of multi-agency collaboration grants. So sometimes for grants, you're going to be working with other entities, maybe a prosecutor's office or community groups. So I've just got 2 sample grants here that you can go ahead and take a look at. They're there for you as a reference. Again, won't go in depth, but I like to say the more grant applications you read, the better grant writer you become. So those are there for you. I talked about the grant writing toolkit, and again, the next video I'm going to go in depth with the toolkit. I've got a federal grant example up here as well. Again, we'll not go in depth here, but I'll talk a little bit about the program narrative. I'll show that to you. And we're going to use this budget narrative when we get to budgeting in the course. We'll use this as an example of how to put together a budget narrative. But I've purposely left all of the attachments here in this file for you to view, just to show you how complicated, federal grants can get and how meticulous you want to be. During exercise 1, we're actually going to be applying for our first grant. And so in this folder are all of the bits and pieces that you need to get that application in. It's a grant where you can request funds for up to $45,000 in life-saving equipment for your department. And by the end of class, you can have this written. I have a couple of court grant examples here. Sometimes I get folks from prosecutors' offices, district attorneys' offices that take the course. Again, I won't go in depth with these 2 examples, but they're more here for those folks who are working for the court system. Even if you're not, I suggest that you take a read of these. As I said, the more you read, better writer you're going to become. Talked about the course workbook. This is, again, something I recommend downloading and printing out. And then finally, I've got a COPS hiring grant example here. So if you've never heard of the COPS hiring grant, this is a grant where you can request up to $125,000 in funding to hire a police officer or officers for 3 years. So that's $125,000 over 3 years, not each year. But it's a grant that a lot of departments go for, and so I like to use it as an example. And so what I'll do is I will walk you through some of the narrative responses from this hiring grant. It sounds tedious. Again, these are the aspects of the course where we're going line by line that people tend to comment as being most useful. And then finally, I've got the PowerPoint up here that I'm going to use, so don't feel like you need to, write down everything that's on the PowerPoint slides. I don't use a ton of PowerPoint anyway. It's really just kind of in the beginning of the course, but I've got it up here for you as a reference. And so this is all of the course materials that we're going to be using. Just a reminder, if you're taking the course that's on Zoom, of course you're going to be on a computer, but a reminder that if you're taking an in-person class, you definitely have to bring a laptop with you because we will be working in these folders and completing workbook exercises that you're going to need a computer to do. So make sure that you don't forget that laptop. All right, folks, so that's what we're going to be covering in class in the upcoming course. One more video for you in terms of preparation. I just want to go over this grant writing toolkit for you. I've got a couple of things I want to point out and some do's and don'ts with the toolkit. So I'll see you in the third and final video that goes over the grant writing toolkit.